The second film we're watching today, The Himalayan Lifeline, documents the road between Gangtok and Nathula. Before crossing over into Bhutan, Nehru wrote a letter to his chief ministers, and in it he said, "I shall be going to a country, Bhutan, which is more cut off from the world than perhaps any other country. No papers will reach me, no newspapers. Though of course I shall have the inevitable wireless. As I shall be away for over 2 weeks, I feel like sending you a letter before I leave for these rather inaccessible regions. I leave behind my many problems, internal and external. Also, I must confess that I had a powerful urge to go to Bhutan. That urge is always there when high mountains are concerned, but it was especially present in the case of Bhutan, which is one of the very few countries which still lives in a past age, unaffected by what is called modern life. Aircraft do not go there, nor railways, nor railway trains, nor automobiles. Indeed, there are no roads there, and I do not think any four-wheeled or two-wheeled vehicle has ever appeared in Bhutan. One travels on foot or on the back of a pony by difficult bridle paths. Apart from the Nathula, the pass between India and Tibet, there are 2 higher passes in Bhutan itself which I shall have to cross." Can we have the next slide? So here is, so upon his return, this is what he wrote in his letters. "I suppose it will change as every part of the world has changed. Nevertheless, it was an experience, I thought, worth having, to compare that with other countries where, while on one side we have many modern conveniences, we have many ill effects of the modern age also. I spent nearly 2 weeks going in and out of Bhutan. It was a remarkable experience for me because it took me to a world which modern science and technology has not affected at all. There were no roads, no vehicles, no automobiles, and all communications were by mountain carts. It was a strange experience into a world perhaps 3 or 4 or 500 years ago or more." And so consequently, in 1959, the Bhutanese government asked the Indian government to build a road, a task that was given to the Border Roads Organization, from their isolated capital, Thimphu, to the Indian border, facilitating trade and development. In 1961, the Indian government sent over a research team that prepared a report based on which a 5-year plan was drawn up, and aid was provided for the building of the road. Over the next 3 plans, the first 2 aided completely by the Indian government, the last partially funded by the Bhutanese government, the BRO maintained the road between India and Thimphu. And so infrastructure played out its role of being a strategic object. The building of roads on either side of the border of the Bhutan reveals the road to be material iterations of the state's attempt to hold territorial control over regions and maintain their image of military prowess in the global arena. So, but to go back for a moment to Nehru's quotes, I would urge you to look for Nehru's particular narrative of modernity encountering the not modern in the film Road to Bhutan. In this film, the Indians are the bearers of modernity, the ones who bring machines to the mountain, who teach the Bhutanese to labor for themselves rather than for others, who bring together various Bhutanese ethnicities to work as a united force on the road. So the road not only connects places, it connects people. India presents itself as a modernizing force, but one that is devoid of colonial ambitions. And you will see a similar gaze in the film on Ladakh as well. In both cases, different people of each region are listed. You know, the Darbis, the Baltis, they all come together, Dukpas, Ladakhis, they all come together to build this road that they need so badly. The films have some odd narrative structures too. The voiceover is perhaps the most intrusive of them all. And perhaps we need a theory of the voiceover as a technology. This is, I think, most evident in the Bhutan Road film, where the voiceover imbues the character, this lead character, Panjo, with an English-speaking subjectivity. You never hear his voice, although you see his lips move. There are moments when you do hear people speak in their own voice, although it's with a distinctly anthropological gaze. The subject of the film is spoken in and spoken over. It is fictionalized, and that process gives us immense insight into the technology of the voiceover, where not just people, but nature, infrastructure, culture, all need to be ventriloquized. They need to be spoken for so that we can understand their roles as objects in the theater of the nation state. The Road to Leh features a spectacular opening sequence. The Road to Leh is the first film that we'll watch. It features a spectacular opening sequence that ends on the camera framing the road, but using the windshield of the car to remind you of the layered distance that the audience has with this mountain. The road frames the mountain, the windshield then frames the road, the camera then frames the windshield. So you are 3 iterations away from nature, which I think is a wonderful representation of modernity's mediated relationship with nature and environment.